So, talking about the applied aspect, the one major disease which is very common is diabetes mellitus. So, any dysfunction of insulin production and secretion, as well as the target cell's responsiveness to the insulin, it can lead to a condition called diabetes mellitus. And it has been diagnosed in more than 18 million adults and more than 200,000 children. So it is a very common disease in which what happens, the blood glucose levels are abnormally high. So it is a syndrome of impaired carbohydrate, fat and protein metabolism. Now why do we call it as a syndrome? A syndrome because it has many different types of signs and symptoms. It's a collection of sign and symptom. That is why it's a syndrome. So either it is caused by a lack of insulin or the decreased sensitivity of the tissues to the insulin. So broadly talking, they are divided into two major types, the type 1 and type 2. So type 1 is also called as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, IDDM, and this is an autoimmune disease affecting the beta cells of the pancreas. So the beta cells of the people with type 1 diabetes do not produce enough insulin. So synthetic insulin must be administered by injection or infusion, and this only accounts for less than 5%. That is why this is called insulin dependent, because in which the patient needs the infusion of the insulin. If I talk about type 2 diabetes, which is called non-insulin dependent diabetes, type 2 diabetes accounts for approximately 95% of all the cases. It is acquired and majorly because of some lifestyle factors like poor diet, inactivity, and the presence of pre-diabetes greatly increases a person's risk. About 80% of persons who are suffering from type 2 diabetes, they are obese, they are overweight. Now what happens in type 2? The reduced sensitivity to insulin, which means the cells become resistant to the effects of the insulin. Now when they become resistant to the effect of insulin, they cannot take up the insulin. They are not actually utilizing the glucose because if they are resistant to insulin, so insulin cannot help all the cells to use up the glucose, which is the excess glucose in the blood. So what happens in response? The pancreas increases its insulin secretion, but over time what happens, the beta cells, they get exhausted. So in many cases, type 2 diabetes can be reversed by moderate weight loss, physical activity, or having a healthy diet. But however, the blood glucose level, it cannot be controlled. The diabetic will eventually require insulin at a later point of time. So if I talk about the type 1 diabetes mellitus, the causes I've already talked about are this degeneration of the beta cells, and could be a congenital disorder, or majorly it is an autoimmune disease. It usually occurs before 40 years of age, and the person affected, it requires the infusions of the insulin. Now what happens, three principal sequelae are, the first thing is the increased blood glucose level in the blood. Then what happens if this insulin is less because of the degeneration of the beta cells? So there's increased utilization of the fat for the energy and for the formation of the cholesterol, and there's depletion of the body proteins because insulin always helps in making the proteins. But if the insulin is less in our body, what will happen? The depletion of the proteins in our body. Now coming to the clinical features, as the major symptom which comes is glucosuria. Now the lack of insulin decreases the glucose utilization. So this raises the plasma glucose from 300 to 1200 milligram per 100 ml. Now once this raises up to this level, this starts to appear in urine. And as I've already mentioned, there's a renal threshold of glucose, which is 180 milligram per deciliter. Above this, the glucose starts to appear in urine. So this is the renal threshold. Also, there is another cause, which is the dehydration. Now the dehydration is always caused by osmotic diuresis. Now the excess glucose in the tubules, what they do is they develop osmotic effect because of the excess glucose. So the osmotic effect decreases the reabsorption of the water from the renal tubules, resulting in diuresis. So what happens when there is less reabsorption of the water? So more and more amount of water is excreted in the urine because of the osmotic effect which is exerted by the glucose. So उसकी वजह से the water is less reabsorbed. So the overall effect, what is happening is the massive loss of the fluid in the urine. Now eventually this will cause the dehydration of the extracellular fluid, and eventually this will cause polyuria and polydipsia. So the kidneys are responsible for filtering the glucose from the blood. Now, excessive blood glucose draws the water into the urine, and as a result, the person eliminates an abnormally large quantity of sweet urine, and that is why it is known as glucosuria. The use of the body water to dilute the urine leaves the body dehydrated, and so the person is unusually and continually thirsty. Okay, so the person may also experience persistent hunger because the body cells, they're unable to access the glucose because the insulin is less in the blood. What will happen? This will not let the glucose in the blood to be used up by the cells. So henceforth, what will happen? The person may experience hunger pangs and hunger because the body cells are unable to access the glucose in the bloodstream. So the first thing is the sweet urine because of the abnormally large quantity of glucose in the urine, glucosuria, and then dehydration because the reason is osmotic diuresis. So now we come to three major P's in diabetes mellitus: polyuria, polydipsia, and polyphagia. Polyuria means excess urine formation, excess voiding of the urine. Polydipsia means because of the dehydration there is increase in the water intake. So there's polydipsia. So excess loss of water decreases the water content, and this will stimulate the thirst center. And polyphagia means the intake of excess food. बहुत ज़्यादा भूख लगना. So 3 P's: polyuria, polydipsia, and polyphagia. They all three are connected to this dehydration reason. Now another symptom, which is it causes the increased utilization of the fat because the glucose is not available to the cells. So what will happen? The fat will break down and it will increase utilization of the fat. Now what will happen? Eventually the fats on a further period of time, when they're breaking down, this will cause metabolic acidosis. So what will happen? During the insulin deficiency, glucose cannot be utilized. So what will happen? The large amount of fat is broken down. This causes the formation of excess keto acids. Majorly the two keto acids are acetoacetic acid and beta hydroxybutyric acid. And these two acids lead to the acidosis in our body. So the keto acidosis, the keto acids, they excreted in combination with the sodium ions, and this is known as the ketonuria. So these two keto acids, they excreted in combination with the sodium ions through the urine. So what has happened? The sodium is exchanged for the hydrogen ion. The sodium is exchanged for the hydrogen ion, which diffuses from the renal tubules into the ECF. So this sodium ion is exchanged for the hydrogen ion, which just diffuses from the renal tubule into the extracellular fluid, and this causes henceforth the acidosis. So acidosis, what do you mean by acidosis? Acidosis means that there's lot of amount of, the pH level is less. There's a lot of amount of acidity in our blood. That is why it is acidosis. So physiologic compensations. Because of this acidosis, because of this ketonuria, the body tries to compensate by what? By causing rapid and deep breathing, and this breathing is known as Kussmaul breathing. So this is rapid and deep breathing, and this is only and only because of the acidosis in our body. So there is increased expiration of the carbon dioxide. Now, when there is excess amount of carbon dioxide expiration, what will happen? A person may smell a fruity breath. The odor is a fruity, the smell is fruity from the person because he is or she is exhaling excess amount of carbon dioxide. So giving the characteristic acetone or fruity breath odor. Now, because of increased expiration of the carbon dioxide, because too much CO2 is going out, this will buffer the acidosis. But what will happen, it will buffer the acidosis. On the side by side, what is happening, the extracellular fluid bicarbonate stores, they are getting depleted. The bicarbonate HCO3 धीरे धीरे वो कम होता जा रहा है आपकी बॉडी में, because it's trying to compensate for the excess amount of acidosis, to nullify the acidic content in the blood, to nullify the acidic content in our body. Bicarbonate is acting, and H plus H plus CO3. So H plus and HCO3, they both two are acting, causing H2CO3. And as you all know, I've talked about kidney, how the buffering happens. So this H2CO3 dissociates into CO2, and what is happening, increased expiration of the CO2. But it is actually compensating, but on side by side, the body, the stores of the bicarbonate stores, are now depleted. So the kidneys compensate by decreasing the bicarbonate excretion, because of now body has to increase the store of the bicarbonate. So kidney क्या करेगी, अब bicarbonate का excretion को रोक देगी, and it will generate new bicarbonate that is added back to the store, that is added back to the ECF fluid. So it will generate more bicarbonate stores, decreasing the excretion, and henceforth it will help in the buffering the acidosis. Because of the less insulin, the failure to use glucose for the energy lead to increased utilization of the proteins. Therefore, therefore what happens, the person suffers from the rapid weight loss and asthenia. Asthenia means there's lack of energy. Despite eating large amount of food, despite feeling polyphagia, despite eating large amount of food, but the cells cannot take up glucose. So what will happen, the person suffers weight loss because the body is utilizing the proteins. And eventually the person goes into a diabetic coma. Due to the Kussmaul breathing, large amount of CO2 is lost, which lead to reduction in the concentration of bicarbonate ion, causing severe acidosis and the coma. Now, type 2 diabetes mellitus, 90% of all the cases, the onset occurs after 30, between the ages of 50 and 60. The cell become resistant to the effects of insulin, and in most cases it can be controlled by oral hypoglycemic drugs, and it is also known as non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. The causes are already told, that genetic disorders, lifestyle changes, and also due to some stress, excess glucocorticoids, excess growth hormone. So if I talk about in this diagram what is happening in type 2 and type 1 diabetes, because there is as you can see over here, there is decreased insulin in the blood vessels. There is decreased insulin in the blood vessel. Now there's increased glucose due to the low insulin. So increased glucose is present in the blood, but the cells are unable to use the glucose because of the low insulin. And henceforth what is happening, the glycogen is breaking down, the proteins are breaking down, causing the ketoacidosis. If I talk about the type 2 diabetes, what is happening? There is sufficient insulin which is produced in the bloodstream, but there's increased glucose in the bloodstream. The muscle is unable to use glucose. What is happening over here? Because the cells are now, they are resistant to the insulin, so they are unable to use glucose. So henceforth it leads to obesity and many other complications. So the characteristics of type 1, usually under 30, rapid onset. The person is generally normal. There is no insulin in the body. Ketosis is very common. In type 2, it's generally over 40, gradual onset. 80% are overweight. Most have insulin resistance. Ketosis is very rare. And the more commonest is the type 2, because it is diagnosed in 85% of the cases. And the type 2 has a strong hereditary factor, but in type 1 it has a low familial factor. Complications over time, what happened, persistently high levels of glucose in the blood injure tissues throughout the body, especially those of the blood vessels and the nerve. So what happens when there is injury? There is inflammation, and inflammation and injury of the lining of the artery lead to atherosclerosis and increased risk of heart attack and stroke. So blood vessels in the multiple tissues throughout the body begin to function abnormally. So increased risk of heart attack, stroke, retinopathy, blindness, ischemia of the limbs. So if there's damage to the blood vessels which goes to the eye, it can lead to blindness. So there is retinopathy. If the blood vessel damage also reduces circulation to the limbs, then there is ischemia of the limbs. There is less blood supply in the limbs. If there is a nerve damage, lead to a loss of sensation, which is called as neuropathy, particularly in the hands and the feet. So the cardiovascular complications like hypertension or MI, diabetic retinopathy, there is complete loss or very, very less vision. Then there's diabetic nephropathy, degenerative changes in the kidney, and because the blood vessels or there is degeneration of the nerve which lead to a loss of sensation in the hands and the feet, which is known as neuropathy. So diabetic neuropathy, degeneration of the autonomic and the peripheral nerves. So together all these changes, they increase the risk of injury, infection and tissue death, contributing to a higher rate of toe, foot and lower leg amputations in the people with diabetes. So uncontrolled diabetes can also lead to dangerous form of metabolic acidosis called ketoacidosis. I've already talked about. Deprived of glucose, cells rely on fat stores for fuel. However, in a glucose deficient state, the liver is forced to use an alternative lipid metabolism pathway. So what happens if the body is deprived of glucose, the liver को जाना ही पड़ता है दूसरे pathway में, क्योंकि उसको energy चाहिए, to use an alternative lipid metabolism pathway. Now this pathway results in the production of ketone bodies, or the ketones which are acidic. So the build-up of these ketones will cause ketoacidosis. So I am repeating again, deprived of the glucose, the cells will rely on the fat stores for the fuel. So if there is constant glucose deficient state, the liver is forced to use an alternative lipid metabolism pathway. Now this will result in the production of ketone bodies which are acidic. So the buildup of ketones in the blood causes ketoacidosis, which if left untreated, if it is not treated properly, it may lead to a life-threatening condition which is also known as diabetic coma. It is also known as diabetic coma. So diabetes is very, very commonest disease, but it is very dangerous of all the disease. So it is whenever it is diagnosed, the blood glucose levels are higher than normal, it's condition known as hyperglycemia. So what happens in a fasting blood glucose? In a fasting blood glucose is done in the morning. So if your fasting blood glucose is 100 to 125, if it is 100 to 125, this time I'm talking about the fasting blood glucose. It is 100 to 125, then you have a form of pre-diabetes, that you are more likely to develop type 2 diabetes. But if it is more than 126 above or more than 130 above, then you have a chance or you are suffering from diabetes. So what happens in the fasting blood glucose? There is overnight fasting and there is this blood sample taken in the morning itself. The postprandial blood glucose, what happens in this is more sensitive than the fasting blood glucose. So it requires you to fast for at least 8 hours before the test. Your plasma glucose is measured before, and right 2 hours after you drink a liquid which is containing 75 grams of glucose. This is containing 75 grams of glucose dissolved in water. So there's pre and there's post. Result and what they mean. So if your blood sugar level is between 140 till 200 milligram per deciliter, 2 hours after drinking the liquid, you may have a form of pre-diabetes. Okay, and if it is more than 200, if it is more than 200, then you are diabetic. This is the postprandial glucose test. Then there is normal glucose tolerance test. which is just a random random plasma glucose test. Then there is glycosylated hemoglobin test. Now, what is this glycosylated hemoglobin test? This is also known as hemoglobin A1C or glycated hemoglobin test, and this gives a good indication how well your diabetes is being controlled. So, if it is below 42 millimoles, then it is non-diabetic. If it is between 42 to 47, then there is impaired glucose regulation. So you have to keep in mind all these tests. And so what happens in this HbA1c, I'll tell you, though it's not required at your stage, but if someone asks you in Viva, you are able to answer. So what happens in this, because this occurs when hemoglobin, the oxygen carrying protein in the RBCs, they become bonded with the glucose in the bloodstream. Now the bonding with the glucose is called as glycation. Okay, it's called glycation. The higher a person's blood glucose level have been, the higher the number of RBCs that will have become glycated. Because जितना ग्लूकोज होगा उतना ही बॉन्डिंग होगी हीमोग्लोबिन की, सो उतना ही आरबीसीज ग्लाइसेटेड होंगे, एंड देयरफॉर द हायर HbA1c level they will have. So this HbA1 level generally reflects a person's blood glucose level over the previous 8 to 12 weeks. So this is also a very, very great measure, a great diagnostic test to determine how well your diabetes is being controlled. So all these questions the examiner asks you in your Viva. I don't know your Viva will happen or not, but just to prepare you guys, so you should be knowing about the fasting blood glucose, the oral glucose tolerance test, and as the glycosylated hemoglobin test. This is very, very important in our field also, because before going for extraction, you need to know if a person is diabetic or not. That is a very, very important history which you should not skip. So kindly study more, and if there's any doubt, please reach out to me. This is a very, very important topic. This comes in a short note. If you understood it well, it's very easy also, but just go back and read it again. The insulin, the glucagon, the relationship between them, how they are controlled, and of course the diabetes mellitus. Thank you so much.